Welcome to the Suck It, Fill My Bucket Show podcast. I'm Christina Reynolds, and I am Mom's partner in her life's enhancement. I liberate moms from the belief that they must put their wellness, needs, and desires on the back burner until their kids are grown. It's about getting rebellious from those beliefs and getting moms to say suck it to the tasks that can wait and mindsets that don't serve her in order to fill up her bucket. So, join us in this movement and let's get busy building your life by intention.
Hello and welcome to the Suck It, Fill My Bucket Show podcast, episode 4. I am your host, Christina Reynolds, and I am so excited to be here with you. I have an awesome guest today, perfect for this podcast because we are all about liberating moms from the mindsets and the beliefs that don't serve her in order to fill up her own bucket and create a ripple impact outwards. Time and time again, I hear moms saying, I don't have time to care for myself. And that is so backwards because when we don't care for ourselves, everyone around us suffers. But when mom is healthy, then everyone else around her can be healthy as well. But that starts with something called a decision. It starts with saying, I don't want to live this way. I want to make some changes and I'm going to make a decision. That's why today's guest is perfect to speak to this because she once made a very powerful decision and she's so authentic in the way that she speaks and her care for women and healing people. And so this is going to be such a good one with such great nuggets. We are completely unfiltered and unscripted here, which is how I like to do it and my favorite way to hang with Jen also. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her on stream and we can go ahead and get started. Hey, Jen.
Hello, my love.
I'm so excited that you are chatting with us here because I think that your piece is such an important puzzle that moms often miss. And there's so much power in this very first step and everything else can fall into line. And so I'm so excited to have you here. Before I jump in and ask you to start telling your story, how do you generally introduce yourself to new moms or to podcasters when you're doing a speaking event like this?
I say hi.
Welcome.
I know. Hi. I'm Jen Russman, and I am an energy healer, trauma guide, visibility coach, intuitive coach. I am on a mission to set 1 million women free from self-suppression. That is my mission. That is what I'm here to do in this lifetime, and to do it through the energetics of healing, especially around the trauma piece, to set them free because self-suppression is such a deep, wounded part of my own story and my own lived experience from childhood traumas and whatnot, which we'll talk about later. But that's really who I am and what I'm here to do.
I love it. And it's so needed because it kind of starts there. You know, by the time that you're a mom, you have so many things on your plate that the thought of digging into who I am, first of all, sounds scary. Like, let's just keep that in the closet. And 2, it sounds like a lot of work. And I know that when I first started working with you, what is it? A couple of years now, really in-depthly over the past year. When I first started working with you, the idea that it didn't have to be hard, that it could be painless and it can be freeing and empowering and exhilarating. That was something that got my attention. That was like, wait. I don't need to spend years in talk therapy. I can work through this in other ways with another woman who gets it. That's incredible. So when you talk
about, as I like to say, Christina, it almost narrows down to like, it's the difference between holding our breath and exhaling. Right? Pain is in the resistance.
Yeah.
And so when we allow ourselves to experience the flow of energy work, we get to breathe.
Yeah. And we forget how to do that, right? Like our new normal is suffocating. Our new normal, oftentimes before we get in the jive of it, is just surviving.
Holding our
trying to figure out how to get out of that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when you speak of that suppression, that's partially what you mean then, right? For a mom who's like, what do you mean by self-suppression? That idea of like putting down who you are innately as a being, and not giving in and surrendering to who you truly are.
Yeah, it's really, so I see so many brilliant, magical women holding themselves back, not speaking their truth, not standing up for themselves, not setting and following through on their own boundaries. I mean, the list goes on and on. I see it. And it comes from this place of, the lack of self-worth and which comes from all the conditioning, right? That's put on us and imprinted growing up in our lifetime, stuff that's not ours. And so this journey really is about, when I got involved in energy work and working with energy guides, my one energy guide taught me, like, it's about discerning, is this mine or is this somebody else's? If it's mine, then let's deal with it. If it's somebody else's, I just need to let it go.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be all that pain and all that hard work. Letting go is, I got a whole thing on letting go. Don't even get me started there. But yeah, so that's really what it's about. And I'm so tired and sad seeing women in the struggle and cycling in the trigger trauma loop and holding themselves down and afraid to take up space. I hear that a lot from women, like afraid to take up space, staying small, shrinking back, not allowing themselves to stand strong and empowered in their own right to be visible and to be seen and be heard. And so when I say setting 1 million women free from self-suppression, that's what I mean. And it shows up in, if you have a business, in your work life, in your relationships, your parenting, your intimate relationships, family, all of it, broad spectrum. Because how we do anything is how we do everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like that domino, like what's the first domino that will kind of allow the rest of your life to fall into place? Mm-hmm. That's kind of that first piece. You said how did you say it? The
trigger trauma loop, the
trigger
cycle.
Trauma loop.
Yeah. I call it the trigger trauma loop. And trauma is a broad term, it doesn't have to mean domestic violence, physical abuse, sexual abuse, which oftentimes it is with women. Right. But it could be a whole bunch of stuff, It could be your parents got divorced or how you witnessed your parents' interactions with each other. It could be, grief, loss. Trauma is a whole bunch of things, So it doesn't necessarily mean like one form of trauma.
And blowing it off, that's part of that trigger trauma loop, is saying oh, well, other people have it worse, or she's had more trauma, or it's not like I went through X, Y, and Z, and I'm just not going to deal with it. And so I'm going to just continue being triggered and then traumatized and trigger and traumatized. Yeah. And this is just the new normal.
Yeah. And the thing about that, Christina, what I'm so passionate about, and I talk about this all the time, is I'm always saying coping is not healing. And so we are living in a coping model in this society where we are taught and told that our traumas, our past pains and traumas, are woven into the fabric of who we are. And we have to settle for learning how to cope with them the rest of our lives. Here, let me hand you some coping skills. Here's your coping bag and here's your skills. Put them all in your bag. Carry your bag with you as you go. And then, oops, a trigger popped up. And there I was, opening my little trigger bag, pulling out my tool, chisel, chisel, chisel. Okay, got through that trigger, put it back in my bag, pick up my bag, and go on my merry way until, another trigger hit in my life, right? And so that's what I mean by the cycle of the trigger trauma loop. And we're living in this coping model in this society. And it needs to stop, because healing, infinite healing is possible. And trauma is not woven into the fabric of who we are. Yes, our bodies remember. Trauma is stored in the body on several different ways, but we can be free of it. It doesn't have to rule us and dictate how we perceive ourselves and allow ourselves or not allow ourselves to be in this life.
That's beautiful. If you're watching this live or on the replay, I encourage you to tell us in the comments if this is the first time that this is something that you're hearing like this. I know that I can pinpoint those moments for me when I heard these truths, like me living with my trauma and just learning to cope with it. That was just a belief. That doesn't have to be my reality. Right. And yet even with all of my medical knowledge and experience and special needs and all, my background and experience, that was still so foreign to me up until a couple of years ago that I don't have to accept that and just learn to cope with it. And I think I don't know about you, but I meet some resistance with moms, which is part of the purpose of the delivery of this message through a podcast called Suck It, Fill My Bucket, is getting to those moms that are holding those beliefs currently. You may, if you're watching this, currently be holding this belief that you're just learning to cope with the trauma that you've endured. The idea that you can be healed is just not even on your radar. Tell me if you feel that. And Jen, I'd really love to hear, I said that I know those moments for me, but the premise of why we're here is talking about that moment of decision when you figured out, aha, I might be able to heal myself from this. But before you got there, you went through a long journey of, you mentioned briefly, trauma and childhood stuff and stuff that wasn't yours, but that you had carried with you into adulthood that led to some destructive behaviors and ultimately even contributed to an illness that left you homebound. Would you talk a little bit about that before we talk about how you came out the other side?
Absolutely. So at the age of 29, I'll start there. At the age of 29, I woke up one day and my body had gone seamlessly haywire out of left field. And all these wacky things are going on. And long story short, I was slapped with the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. And so at the time, it all seemed like it came out of left field. Like just randomly, I woke up one day, had all these weird things, and then it got progressively worse. And within months, I was bedridden and my journey began. For the next 7 years, I proceeded to live sick, disabled, and homebound. Near about 80% of the time, I was in bed or on the couch because my symptoms were so severe. And I lived the coping model of Western medicine. I did what my doctors told me to do and followed their protocols. And I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And I was living in the victim mentality because that was the role. Because early in life, starting at age 3, I was victimized. I was a victim of sexual abuse from ages 3 to 10. And so that's where my journey really began, right? Is age 3. And when everything changed for me, I came in here pure. I came in here as a beautiful child, ready to play and experience imagination and adventure. And then ugly things happened and imprinted and changed all that for me. So from 3 to 10, I had the stressor and the trauma of being sexually abused. And I also had the added trauma of telling and not being protected. So that was a whole nother piece. And so what ended up happening was I was always a truth teller and I would tell the truth about different things, including the abuse. And it was seemingly that nobody would listen or believe me on anything. And so I internalized very early in life that what I think and feel doesn't matter. I don't matter. I'm not enough. And I'm not heard. So I started to self-suppress. I shut down. Why bother? Nobody's listening. Nobody cares. Mm-hmm. And that's really sad. When you like look at your kids and my kids and when I see them at those ages, like how sad that is. And so, but that was, see, kids, we find our way, right? We find a way to protect ourselves. We find a way to cope and get through and survive. And so by the time I was 12, I found alcohol. And so addiction took over. And so I had the self-suppression in childhood turning into addiction, which added in more suppression, right? Stuff it down, not feel it, numb it out.
Yep.
And that came with a lot of self-harming behaviors and choices and decisions that addiction always comes with. Yep. And that went on until I was 24 when I finally hit bottom and I got sober. And so at the end of my 24th year, I entered recovery. So at 29, 4 years into my sobriety, I'm literally just getting my feet on the ground, getting situated, career up and running, relationship, things were starting to fall into place. And then the rug was pulled out from under me. So looking back now, did I actually wake up and my body randomly go haywire? No, that was my body's cry for help. Mm-hmm. And I always stress this to people. There's always a reason for any form of dis-ease in the body. Yeah. And so that was from years of my body carrying the trauma on a cellular level, an emotional suppression level, and an energetic attachment level. So I didn't know that at the time. I only knew what I knew. So I lived those 7 years very not well. And so age 36, fast forward, my son is 2 and I'm super struggling to take care of him. I'm a new mom and it's miserable because I can barely take care of myself. And I woke up one day and experienced what I call a divine intervention. And it really was this spiritual, energetic activation within me. Something, I heard a voice and I felt something just literally land and move through me. And the voice said, I'm not going to live sick anymore. I'm going to get well. And that was what the feeling was. And literally what I now understand was that was the day that I woke up from being a victim and I became a powerful creator for the first time in my life, besides getting sober. I mean, that was a success, right? But really became a powerful co-creator in my own life on a conscious level. That was the very beginning at age 36. And so that was the day I made what I now call and define as a power of decision. And this is what's so important. Everybody talks about mindset all the time, but the very first thing like that has to happen is we have to make a power of decision for ourselves. And that day I made the decision, this is crap. If I'm going to be on what I literally said to myself, Christina, I looked around and I was like, is this it? Like, seriously, I was like, is this it? Because like, I'm 36 years old. And if I'm going to be on this planet for a while, I'm going to be on this planet I got a long ways to go.
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like, but I know this right here ain't it for me.
Yeah.
And so I was able to take that experience and really tune in and listen. I had no clue. And this is what's so important about the power of decision, you guys. You don't have to have all the details or the how figured out. Your power is in making the decision. You make the decision, you step out, you step up, you step out, you make that decision. And it's in the definition of power of decision for me is choosing and embodying an unshakable truth that completely changes the trajectory of your life. Completely changes the trajectory of your life. It's a new unshakable truth. I'm talking like on a DNA cellular level. You just make this decision like there is no other option. This is my new truth. And when that can land in you, all bets are off. Like it's on, right? It is on. And that was the beginning of my journey of healing myself back home within myself, finding myself again. And it all started with an infomercial saved my life. I bought the Jack LaLanne juicer off of TV, started juicing fruits and vegetables. My body woke up, was having a party. So grateful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And that was really where it all started. And so when I say you don't have to know the how, I had no clue. But what will happen is once you make that power of decision for yourself, the universe will put your breadcrumbs on your path. And that's what happened for me. The infomercial came on. And then one day, like I walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and I heard a voice say, eat a handful of raw organic spinach. And I'm like, huh? And I did. And then guess what? My vertigo, I felt better. And I heard eat more. Like it was just like I was divinely led. And that's why I say it was a divine intervention for me, because back then I couldn't find one person, one story of healing or hope around MS, which we didn't have it's hard to believe in 1998 and into the early 2000s, but the internet wasn't what it is today. So I didn't have access to, So it was me, myself, and higher source.
Right. That's so beautiful. I think that so often we can discount that bigger source as woo or religion or philosophy, as opposed to quantum physics, as opposed to we energetically engage in a certain way depending on what we decide for our thoughts, for our words, for our actions.
Yeah.
And, things like you're an energy practitioner, you work heavily with energy. And I was fairly new to that recently. And, so grateful for you having introduced that to me, because until I had somebody that I trusted and that I knew, and that I had gotten to that point of I call it my gift of desperation, my moment of desperation, where I was like, I can't live like this anymore. This is not sustainable. Me crying on my closet floor, not sustainable. A good cry every now and then, absolutely, you know, but like the daily, I cannot, you know, I can't cope. I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed. My stress resilience is gone. I'm dealing with this trauma and this trauma. And it's like a compounding effect where you feel like you can never catch up. And even if you get 10 minutes to catch up, that's not enough. Right. And so I like how you said that you didn't know exactly what it was going to be or how it was going to go, because I feel like a lot of our viewers and our listeners are probably in that boat. Like, I don't know. I don't even know the next right step in order to feel better, to feel happy, to feel whatever. And maybe not all the time. You know, I'm sure a lot of our listeners have found ways to feel good and to cope. But again, we're talking about the difference between coping and healing, and not just adding tools that can help you in a moment of anxiety or panic, but that cellular at a DNA level, being healed of the things that are causing disease in your body. I really love everything you said. So many gold nuggets in there. I'll have to go back and take notes. So when you talk about taking the next step, right? Like, you don't know what that looks like. I talk a lot about NICU baby steps and just taking that next right step. I like how you talked about that voice, listening to that voice, because I've come to also believe that we all have that internal guidance within us from a higher power, and we can tap into it like a superpower if we know how, and if we can get still, and if we can learn to listen to it. But often we push that out as like, well, I don't know what that was, or, oh, that was a random thought that just popped into my mind. And so in choosing those thoughts and in making a power of decision, where to go next, what would you suggest to the mom who is in that place, needing to make a powerful decision and say, I've had enough. I am ready to make a change. Where should I start? With a community, with continuing coping skills, with reaching out to an expert in the area? What would you suggest for the mom who's feeling alone, like has nobody? Maybe her husband's not there for her. Maybe she's a single mom. She's just alone and she's ready to make a change, but what's the next step? What would you suggest?
The next step is no matter what. You keep seeking, you keep asking, you keep, I think curiosity, you know, I talk a lot about learning how to become curious without judgment. And so, you know, reaching out to someone who may be a couple of steps ahead of you, who have lived a similar journey to what you've lived. But really the very first step is to decide that you're done. Like, you have to decide that you're done with whatever it is, that gift of desperation, that you're done. And trust that, okay, I don't know the answers. I don't know the how. I have no clue what I'm doing. I don't even know if this is really possible. But I'm willing to believe that it could be possible for me. Yeah, Jen, I believe it's possible for you because you did it. But I see that a lot. People will believe very easily that it's possible for the other person, but they don't necessarily believe it's possible for them. And I was one of those people.
Yeah.
I lived that way. And because I was living from a place of comparing and not identifying. And so that's another first step too, is stop comparing with somebody else and start identifying with them. Because we can't compare our insides to somebody else's outsides. So, but yeah, really just, you know, and the curiosity piece is really all about understanding that, here's a first step, understanding that the answers that you're looking for, they're not up here. I hate to break it to y'all, but your answers are not up here. So stop looking up here.
And we just spin, right? We just
stop
spin.
hanging out on that hamster wheel trying to figure this shit out, because the answers are not here. You know where the answers lie? The answers are from here down. But here's the problem. when there are so many of us that live with trauma, we don't allow ourselves to fully drop into our bodies. So we stay up here. And that's where the shallow breathing and the anxiety and the panic and the disconnect and the disassociating and the avoiding and all of those behaviors and things that we all live with come into play. Like, and we feel that pressure. We feel it in our chest, you know, we can feel it tightening in our throats. We can feel that rock in the pit of our stomach. We can feel the ache in our lower back. We can feel the pain in our neck and our shoulders from the tension and stress. We can feel the headaches. However it manifests for you, start recognizing that whatever these physical pains or discomforts or uncomfortability that you're feeling in your body holds the answers, not your head, not your own thoughts, your body. And when you can start to learn how to quiet this, trust that if you quiet this and tap into this, that's what you want to be listening to. And then you can hook up with somebody like me who can guide you to learn how to not only help release and move the energy through and out of your body for the healing, but to give you, I'm somebody who gives the empowerment tools so that moving forward, when our time is over, you have these tools now, not for coping, but for when that stuff comes up, you know how to shift and move that energy out of your body, because that's all our emotions, they're energy. Everything that you feel is an energy. Every emotion carries its own frequency. It's an energy, and all energy is motion. So when you look at the word emotion, E-motion, it's energy in motion. And so when we halt them and we stuff them, we avoid them and we stuff them down and we restrict them and constrict them inside of us and store them away, I'll deal with it another day. Guess what happens? We've stopped that energetic flow. So they've not been able to complete their flow through their movement through and out of the body. And that's why we carry around the weight and the pain of it.
But what's beautiful is that when we deal with this, then those things can go away.
Absolutely.
Then symptoms of illness or, MS or attention issues or depression, anxiety, the list goes on and on and on and on for whatever is going on in your body, can be resolved, through one method or another, or a combination of a bunch of healing modalities.
Yeah. And getting that energy moving again is key. That is key. So that's why talk therapy has its place. I mean, I've done it all. You name it, I've done it. Everything has its place. Yep. But in my experience, those other types of coping mechanisms, if you will, and coping modalities and resources, they only take our healing so far. They're necessary to a certain point.
And they all often pull up things that don't get resolved within the hour that you are.
They do. And you keep going back, and that you see people going to the same therapist for 10 years, still talking about the same shit. And you're like, are you ready to heal yet?
Right. Let's just release it,
People don't, they know what they know and they don't know what they don't know. And so they become very dependent on going back for more and more and more. And so that's what interested me so much in the energy work, because for me, energy, I found, was that missing link to healing whole and releasing it for good. Because I had spent over 2 decades, almost 25 years doing the inner work, showing up for myself, years in recovery in AA, doing all the step work, sponsoring people, doing individual counseling, group counseling, tapping, yoga, meditation, gong baths, chanting, you name it. I was showing up because I wanted to feel better. I wanted to get better. Yeah. And then it was there I was at 50 years old. What's wrong with me? Why am I still walking around with this deep weighted ball of sadness in the core of my being? And the answer was clear from the universe. It was, there's nothing wrong with you. And we as women and as moms, that's our default. What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me?
We think something's wrong with us. We think we're broken. And you know what? I want to say this. If you're listening and you're someone who's sitting there and you've been telling yourself that you're broken, I want to tell you, you're not broken. Stop it. None of us are broken. We might be a little bruised. We might be a little dented, but we're not broken. Okay. We don't need to be fixed. We're in pain. And it's unrest pain. And it needs to be moved out through and out of us energetically so that we can heal. And so it needs to be done with love and compassion. And so it's really about changing the energy of our thoughts and how we think about ourselves and the things we tell ourselves, from a place of judgment and harshness to love and the compassion towards ourselves and how we view ourselves, because that's what we would do for a friend.
Yeah.
We need to do that for ourselves as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good point. We often, if we hear somebody, a friend that's hurting or a sister, we want to do what we can do, and we offer them love and support. And yet often when it's ourself, we're the first to be like, rah, 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 and can even get upset when no one comes to save us. I'm feeling terrible, and
what's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me? And no one's here to save me, and I'm not strong enough. And it's taking those things, those thoughts, and shifting them, because the thoughts, like you said, hold frequency, they hold energy, and
so powerful.
The outcome is different when you choose something different, and we have a what's the word I'm looking for? A mutual. We have a mutual friend and mentor that teaches empowered energetics. And she talks about viewing your thoughts as just clouds that are going by. And so when you have a thought, positive, negative, whatever, looking at it as, oh, that's an interesting thought, or oh, that's an interesting
no judgment, no attachment.
No emotional attachment to it, which is much easier if you are removing that energetically, which does take a little bit of learning how to do. We weren't born knowing how to do that, and a lot of us have gone a different way, or have been taught or ingrained in a different way, and so don't know that it's just that simple to make a choice to remove it. And I remember you and I, when we first started doing some energy work, we were only a couple sessions in, and I had said something along the lines of, I feel like I've been wearing these glasses for all these years, and they're really dark, and there's layer upon layer of smudging. And every time that we do some energy work together, there's like a layer that's peeled off of the glasses. And I know that I still can't see things completely clear, but I feel lighter. I feel like everything is brighter. And I was like, I still have these layers there. And you were like, sister, just take the glasses off. You don't have to wear them. And
did you know you don't have to wear them?
Even that moment for me was like,
damn,
what? I can just take the glasses off. I can just release it anytime it's no longer serving me. And those things protected me for a time, right?
Absolutely.
At certain times, we are victims to circumstances, right? But what makes us a victim to the circumstance is our mindset in that circumstance, right? And we can choose to, in whatever circumstance we're dealing with, say, I am not a victim in this moment. I create my own outcomes, and I make that with my thoughts, curiously, lovingly, and like you mentioned, with support from somebody who's been here, done this, and you're not trying to do it alone.
Absolutely, because it's much harder to figure this stuff out by yourself. It might be even impossible. It's really important to have support, especially with the energy piece and understanding and allowing somebody else who can really guide you lovingly in hold a safe space. And we call it a container. Just hold the sacred, safe container space for you as we guide the releases. And that's what I did for you. That's what I've done for Kaden, and all my beautiful, amazing clients that I work with. It's incredible work. It's powerful. It's so powerful. And I was going to say, we are victims at different points in our real victims. But then there comes a time where, and this is coming from my own lived experience, so I can say this without judgment of anybody else or myself. There comes a time where we cross that line where it now is, there are no victims, only volunteers. And the first time I heard that, I wanted to protect my victimhood. I was like, I was so defensive. Like, what are you talking about? How dare you? right? But it was threatening to me because that's all I knew. I
Mm-hmm.
knew how to be the victim. I knew how to play the victim in my relationships, in my life. I knew how, you know what I mean? Like that's what I knew because that's how I saw myself. But when you grow up and you're out on your own, you know, it's on me now. So there's no victims, only volunteers. So we cross that line at some point. And that's why it's so important to have other empowered people who really have our best interest at heart, you know, and who have the similar lived experiences. And they may be a few steps ahead of us, to point certain things out to us in a loving way, not in a judgmental way, to help us see, because it's really hard to see things.
Mm.
And as moms, we can understand, like, just look at our kids, like their brains are developing. They can't see, they can't think things through. They can't foresee, they can't see things. We have to point things out and teach them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really no different for us.
Right.
You know, when it comes to having mentorship and guidance.
Yeah. And you can choose to be a part of that, you know, sisterhood, where part of who you are is holding the ideology and mindset and belief that as moms and as women, we're here to support each other and help each other along this journey. And when you've learned something, you know, that's kind of what I'm about. I'm so deeply impacted by our experiences, my motherhood experiences, especially over the last 4 years, and so incredibly grateful for the women that stepped up and stepped into my life and said, hey, did you know about this? And I was like, no, I did not know about that. How have I lived 36 years of my life without knowing that? This is a game changer. Right. And being able to share those game changers and save other moms time, you know, like you're saying, you're 50, you were 50 and saying, what am I missing? And finally found your way, you know, whereas if somebody is 22 or 20 or 24 or whatever, however old they are, if they can learn the things that we know now, by the time they're 36 or 50, how much farther are they going to be? How much less pain are they going to be dealing with? And what kind of ripple are they going to be creating? Because when you're healed and you're whole and you're not dealing with trauma, then you can live out your full potential, which is creating a ripple and serving the world, even if that's just in your home with your kids. You are raising people who are going to go out in the world and either be productive members of society or little psychos, you know, like that is, you know, heavily relying on what you choose to do as well, and how you choose to show up and how you choose to offer support for them and those things. So it really, that idea I was obsessed with for the longest time, how do I create change in the world? And the answer always came back to, it starts with me, and it starts with each individual mom at home and what she does. And I just love all of this.
Yeah. So that's why I'm so passionate about helping other women. I mean, I have male clients, I have children clients, but it's really that woman who is, you know, and yes, I am passionate about, I'm all for, you know, when you think about like the oppression and suppression of women, absolutely. It makes me sick. And I wish that I could snap my fingers and make that go away. But what I'm really here for and really passionate about is the self-suppression, right? And the self-suppression that develops because of the conditioning and because of the trauma and because of the things that we were told that we were or that we're not or will never be, right? And we're told to be quiet and we're told to whatever, you know? So I'm really passionate about the self-suppression piece, because that's what made me so sick. It's going to come out. It's going to manifest somehow. You can shove it down, but if you don't
catch up with you.
Yeah. And at 29, it caught up with me, and it took me out for 7 years. And if I didn't experience that divine intervention that day, I probably would have ended up in a nursing home. I don't know where I'd be, honestly.
So powerful.
I'm not exaggerating. Like, it was bad. It was really bad. So it's really important to understand how important the emotional wounding, healing the emotional wounding is to our overall well-being and our ability to speak up for ourselves and stand in our own power, trusting our own power. And that's a piece of my story, that I felt my own power as a teenager, deep inside of me, but I didn't understand it. I didn't have a word for it. It scared the crap out of me, and I ran from it until I discovered it at age 50. I'm a freaking empath. That's my power. All of us we're all healers. Everybody is a healer. We can all tap into that ability. We all have that innate power to heal, whatever it is, whether it's emotional, spiritual, physical, mental. It's there inside of us. I just happened to feel mine very young, and it scared the crap out of me.
Sure.
And so I tiptoed around it, and I eggshelled around it, and I avoided it, at all costs, because it terrified me. And then once I was ready, it all cracked open for me, and here I am. And I'm late to the party, but I'm not late to the party, because one of my power principles that I've learned to live by is that I am always happening right on time.
Yeah.
And so I'm here, I'm 52 years old. And like you said, you really touched me when you said, man, if I'm out here talking about this and there's a mom who's 25 or 30 years old hearing me and going, oh my God, she's telling part of my story. And she reaches out to me, and I'm able to work with her and set her free to the level where she can now express herself more fully, stand up for herself, speak her truth, know who she is, stand in her own power. My eyes get wet thinking about it. Like, bring them on. I'm 1 million women. I'm looking for them.
I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah.
We have a couple of questions and comments from our viewers that I want to touch on before I ask you one last question. One of our viewers says, I want to heal, absolutely relate to all of this. This isn't the first time hearing it, and the part that I struggle with is coping and healing, and I know I need therapy. I'm also a rape and sexual assault survivor, as well as trauma in childhood from a very, very early age with narcissistic abuse and emotional neglect. All of the behaviors to survive no longer serve me. So where do I begin? Because I want my power back, and I now know that I can heal, but what do I do? That viewer also says, definitely going to rewatch this. And I'll let you answer to that. And I think that we kind of already touched on those pieces of, find somebody like you or like me who has done intensive work in this and knows how to walk somebody through that. Piggybacking off of that question what are some empowerment tools and ways to move the energy out of the body? Because it's very overwhelming to think about all the types of therapy I would conventionally need.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I want the viewer to know that we are all one, and I stand with you in your pain and your experience. And I stand with you in your willingness to understand that you have the power to heal, and sending you lots of light and love. But really what's coming through for me is, you listed off a lot of things and the things that you're doing. And, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And if what you're doing is not really working, you need to do something differently. And so that's where the getting curious piece is. That's where it's opening up our willingness to say, okay, well, what else is out there? Step outside of the box. That's what I did with the MS. I had no support when I made that decision to go off all of my interferons and injections and medications. Everybody was in a panic around me. I had no support. I followed my inner knowing. If there's one message you leave here today from me, is follow your inner knowing. Listen to it and follow it. Even if everybody else around you is telling you it's wrong, like everyone was telling me I was wrong, look what happened. I freaking healed.
Yeah.
Right. So listen and follow your inner knowing. And, moving energy it's simpler than we think. It can be moved through simple things like movement, through dance, through, think about if you're someone who likes to work out or exercise, how you feel like after moving that, the energy, there's a reason why people and therapists and people say, scream into a pillow, go in your car, turn the music up real loud and scream when you're angry or if you feel rageful, right? There's a reason for it, because anger and rage is a very heavy, intense emotion. It's an energy.
It's toxic to your body.
Yes. And it's
Get it out.
screaming to come out of your body, right? Our pain is screaming to come out of our body. Scream, sing, tone. I mean, I can give an example. If you're open, I'll do a quick tone.
Yeah, do some toning.
You can start making toning sounds. This is huge for me, and I'll share in a minute, but it could be something as simple as just going, ho, and holding it as long as you can until you can't anymore. And then, octaves up and down and play around with it and what feels good. For me, I find the lower the tones, that's the negative, the dark, the what doesn't feel good that needs to come out. And then when I start toning higher, that's the light, that's the higher source coming in, and to replace it. So that's one simple way. Breath work. Breath is life.
Yeah.
So if you can pick up there's different breath techniques you can use. There's simple ones, there's more advanced. That's why a practice like yoga is so healing, because it's mind, body, spirit. So if you can start to look at yourself as the mind, the body, and the spirit, and ways that you can bring them together. People talk about balance all the time. I don't talk about balance as much as I talk about harmony. Mm-hmm. I'm an advocate for harmony, because harmony to me is like getting all the systems involved to work together harmonically, right? Yeah. More so than us always struggling, like, oh, I'm trying to balance. Where's the center point? No, this is about harmony, and harmony doesn't have to be perfect. Right. Yeah. So, and reach out to me if you have questions, if you want to have a one-on-one. I'm happy to have a consultation and answer any questions. But that's just off the top of my head, and congratulations to you to know that, if it's your time, it's your time, and you'll know when it's your time.
She says, I love that. Harmony.
Yeah. Harmony.
That's beautiful. She says, Jenergy, maybe I need to see you. Do you have resources, a website? Jen, I did not put it up, but I will right now if you tell me how people can get
JenRussman.com.
JenRussman.com.
That says Jenergy Vibes. It doesn't say my name on here, which is fine, because I am Jenergy Vibes. So, but yeah, it's Jen Russman, JenRussman.com is my website. I'm on Facebook, Jen Russman. I'm in Christina's friends list. You can find me there. Friend me, send me a messenger message. I'm very organic, and I love to connect. I'm very much into the one-on-one connection. And I love that, because that's who I am. There it is. There you go. Very good. Thank you. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love it. Yes. Check out Jen. And of course, you always know how to reach me. I'll throw my website up here as well. And I like to keep this under an hour, because as a busy mom, I personally, if I get onto a live and I see that it's longer than an hour, I'm like, I'm sorry, guys, I can't hang. I can't hang for that long. So I'm trying to keep it under an hour. So as we depart, we've shown how to get a hold of you in order to work a bit closer with you. As well as me. And I'll put all of these things in the show notes as well. But leaving, I always have a fun question that I like to ask my speakers to kind of give our listeners an idea of something they can do. So tell me one thing you do that you do because it makes you feel good. It can be as unfiltered as you want, but I'm all about doing things more often that allow us to feel good. And I know that you're the same way. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. That's your mantra, or one of them. So what is something that you do that is fun, that raises your energetic vibration?
I sing.
Yeah.
I suck at singing, but I sing because I'm happy. I love it. And I dance, but I sing, primarily singing, because I sing in the car. I even dance in the car. Like when I got a 20-minute, 30-minute drive up the Northway, I'll put on dance. I'm like moving, like from, I'm just like, I'm a safe driver. Don't worry. But, singing. And I think too, like the singing, like the vocalization, I think comes through so strongly for me, because I was so suppressed most of my life. And most of my suppression was self-suppressed, right? Because of my self-worth, my lack of self-worth. So now that I've unleashed my throat chakra, I never wanted to close up again. And so every day, it's just, I love to sing.
I love it. Me
Yeah.
too. I think I've been singing and
Next week
dancing
is
since I
birthday.
could talk and
Yeah.
walk. So
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah. So, sound and movement are huge. They're non-negotiable for me today. I will never shut up again.
Every day. Jenergy Vibes. You can catch her show and connect with her at jenrussman.com. Thank you so much, Jen, for speaking with us today. Thank you, everyone,
for moms out there for joining us.
Yes. Thank you all for joining us. Feel free to drop a comment and grab your extras in the comments. Love you all so much.
Thank you so much for absorbing this today. And before you go, one more thing. If you can't tell, I'm on a mission to create a ripple impact in the world, starting with each mom at home, helping her thrive her life her way. If this podcast resonated with you, please leave a review. Make sure you subscribe and share it with your friends. If you're interested in working with me, book a soul chat with me in the show notes, or head over to my website at www.therippleimpact.net. Have a great day, and I'll see you next week. With love as my guide, I'll see you next time.